So YouTube is currently breaking the law. Um, DMCA law, that is, right? As a content creator on their platform, especially if you do reactions, you're supposed to be covered under fair use. Now, there's stipulations to that, but those guidelines have never been set in a court of law. This is why there's so much shenanigans, right? Because as a content creator and a reaction channel, we would love to have guidelines by the court system, by YouTube, by the claimants, the people claiming this content, to have guidelines to follow so we could abide by all of the rules and never get a copyright strike on our channels. That's just the truth. No one wants to have copyright strikes. No one wants to be on the fringe and have this, this bad relationship with YouTube, which at some capacity is your employer to a degree when you're on the platforms as much as me and a lot of the creators I work with. But let's talk about how they are breaking the law currently in this moment. I'm going to bring up the receipts so you can see that I'm not BSing. Also, I want to log this for my own personal log, just in case it has to go further than where it's going. So, as all of you guys know, yesterday I received a copyright strike on this channel, Pegasus vs. the World, for a movie reaction I did to the Goonies that has not even been released to the public yet. Okay, so it's in the backlog unlisted, and it's been removed and then hit my channel with a strike. Now, the protocol to deal with that is to appeal it through a process called counter notification, saying, hey, I believe you got this wrong. I didn't create an infraction. I'm reacting to this. This is transformative content, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is where it gets sticky, you guys. Today, so you have to go through that process. It's like an appeal. File a counter notification. YouTube is the middleman in this position. I want you to understand this part because it's very important. YouTube is the middleman. So they get your counter notification. They screen your counter notification and make sure you put in all the proper information, and then they forward it to the claimant, okay? Now, they are legally obligated and required to forward it to the claimant, and the reason they have to is because YouTube is the middleman. They can't decide the rights of content that is not theirs, right? And I received this strike, as you guys can see on the screen, from Warner Bros. Films. So let's just bring that up big so I can make sure you guys see it. So Warner Bros. Strike on October 29th, and it's from Warner Bros. Films. Just so we're very clear here and there's no questions. So the problem with this is YouTube rejected my counter notification. But legally, they can't reject the counter notification unless you filed it improperly. But I have all the legal verbiage for DMCA. I filed counter notifications before. And the reason I'm putting this vocally, because this happened to me before. This happened to me when I did a Seinfeld reaction. It's on the channel. I got a strike, and I had to do a counter notification for this. Okay? And they did the same thing. They rejected it. And I had to go through all these hoops. I had to hit them up on Twitter, and we're going to get into that in a second. I had to escalate this thing because it is illegal for them not to forward it, right? And we'll go through all the legalities so you know that I forwarded it properly, and they're rejecting it let's read it actually. So you guys see the strike here, and you saw that I filed the counter notification. This is where it is in the bottom, counter notification filed in that red saying rejected. Okay, so now that we have that, let me find the email. So here's the email I received from YouTube today. And let's just make sure we have this big so it's filed that they did send this, because this is the part where they are breaking the law. All right, so dear Pegasus vs. the World, which is my channel, thank you for your counter notification. Based on this information you provided, it appears that you do not have the necessary rights to post the content on YouTube. Therefore, we regretfully cannot honor your request. It has not been forwarded to the original claimant, and we will not be able to restore your video. To learn more about the copyright, you may visit YouTube Copyright Center. Keep in mind the copyright strike expires after 3 months as long as you've completed copyright school. We unfortunately are unable to assist further in this matter. YouTube team counter notifications as follows. Video included. Okay, so this is the counter notification that I processed, right? It has all the information that is needed. And below is all the consent. Like, I'm not going to put all my personal info out there, but you put all your personal info in this, and essentially they have to forward this. Here they're saying it appears that you do not have the necessary rights to post the content on YouTube. Unless they own the content, they're not, like, legally, they cannot say that. Legally, because it's not their content. So they're the middleman. They forward this to the claimant. The claimant decides if I have the right to post what I posted. And if not, then they take you to court for that. That's just how it works. That's how it's supposed to work. That's DMCA law. So we will go over this. Now, what is really funny, actually, let's go over this with Chat GPT and get some clarifications. Boom, boom, boom. Here, I've screenshotted all of this, and I want to, just so you guys can kind of see how this is going on. Let me just make sure I got everything right. Boom. So I'm putting in the screenshots so they see it. All right, here we go. I did a reaction video to a movie on YouTube. This reaction video has not even been released to the public yet, and it has been removed, and my channel has received a copyright strike, period. The normal way to deal with this is to appeal it through a counter notification, period. I was under the idea that YouTube is legally required to forward your counter notification to the claimant as long as it's been filled out properly, period. In this case, YouTube is the middleman. The claimant is Warner Bros. Films for the movie The Goonies, period. And I am the creator on YouTube, period. For them not to forward my counter notification goes against DMCA law, and I wanted to confirm that with you here, period. Here are two screenshots for you to go over and verify. I wanted to do the talk to text thing. I kind of effed that up, didn't I? All right, so I'm just going to read it. I'm going to put this on the screen. I meant to do the talk so you could hear it talk back to me, but you can kind of see it. But if you put everything I just said in, this is the response. You're absolutely right to question YouTube's refusal to forward your counter notification. And yes, under Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMC 17 USC, they are legally required to do so once your counter notice meets the statutory requirements. Let's break it down precisely. What the DMC actually requires: upon receipt or valid counter notification, the service provider shall promptly provide the person who submitted the notification, if your counter notification includes your name, address, consent to U.S. federal court jurisdiction, a statement under penalty under perjury that you believe the removal was due to a mistake or misidentification, identification of the removed material and where it appeared. When YouTube is required by law, they have to forward it to Warner Bros. Notify you that the claim has 10. Okay, so this is what it's saying. What YouTube did wrong. From your screenshots, you clearly provided full identification and address, consent to jurisdiction, a sworn good faith statement, a fair use explanation. That means your counter notice was formally valid. YouTube's email saying it appears you don't have the necessary rights to post the content. Therefore, we regretfully cannot honor your request. It has not been forwarded to the claimant. It's not compliant with DMCA law. because they're substituting their own legal judgment for the statutory process. The DMCA gives them no discretion to reject a properly formatted counter notification based on their own review of the rights. What you can do next. So now it's going to tell you all these things you can go through, right? So the first thing that I've done in the past, because again, this has happened before, but I wanted to document that currently for the DMCA law, they are literally breaking it currently, okay? And this is their response. So I knew this, so I made sure to word it properly. I hit them up on X. I filed a valid DMCA counter notification for my reaction video, but YouTube refused to forward it to the claimant. That's illegal under, I put the law that it's illegal under. The DMCA requires you to forward valid notices. Please fix this ASAP. So this is their response. I think it's in notifications. So this is their first response. Let's bring this up big so you guys can see it. Because this is where it's just like, bro, the decision on your counter notification is final. To resolve the strike, you can complete copyright school for it to expire in 90 days if you have 3 strikes or request a retraction. So I'm not requesting a retraction. What I did was I hit up the customer service chat and I escalated it to their copyright claim team, because this is just not how this is. Again, I don't know if you guys look this up, if you guys decide to look it up, and then they respond with this weak ass response. We replied to you here, and it's just go to copyright school. But, I just responded respectfully. That response violates this. YouTube is legally required to forward any valid DMCA counter notification to the claimant. And what I did was I cross-referenced this. So I didn't show you guys on screen because all of my personal identification is in these messages, because that's what you have to do when you do a counter notification, because it's a legal document. But I left that in ChatGPT so they could cross-reference and make sure it was filled out properly, and it went over everything. And as we read, it has been filled out properly. So I have some buddies who've been through this, and typically what happens is YouTube will escalate it and then forward it. Like they do make mistakes, and I have grace for the mistakes, but you guys have to understand this is a process. Like once it's forwarded, you have 10 business days you have to wait for a response from the claimant. So there's just a lot of nonsensical stuff going down, but I wanted to make sure I highlighted all of this stuff, their responses. So they responded on this one. Oh, I responded on this one. And you guys can see the behind the scenes. And when I tell you guys, like, I know there's been like an uproar with my reactions. They're like, oh, this, that. There's so many things to react when you're doing reactions on YouTube to content that you do not own. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. And this is why I prefer to lean into original content. And that's where I want to go with what I'm doing on YouTube, period. Like I want to start moving into original content, vlogging, creating sketches, maybe doing stuff kind of like the Fat Electrician, doing stories on things that actually interest me. But music interests me, right? Music and movies absolutely interest me. And for some reason, people like to hear my interpretation of music, movies, and stuff like that. And the biggest problem that we're facing on YouTube is the fact that we don't have anything written in stone on how to make reactionary content. It's the Wild West. And the people who get it the worst, I believe, is like Rick. I always mess up his name, Beato or Beato. But Rick, the professor of rock, they stand out to me. And it's because they're truly covered under fair use. They're using 6 seconds of a song, 10 seconds, 3 seconds, so for this to be happening to them is absolutely completely insane. For when it happens to me, I'm using a lot more of the content, right? And I understand that, but we are transforming it, right? We're breaking it down. We're breaking it up. We're having conversations. There's nothing on paper that says, hey, you can only use 20%. You can only use 1%. You can only use 5%. You can only use 70%. There is nothing out there. I've looked because I'm just one of the people. I'll be like, cool, that's what it is. So essentially, unless this goes higher up and there are guidelines created, this is the process you have to go through, uncertainty. And you know what kind of frustrates me the most? I went and looked up, are there any other movie reactions to the Goonies? Yes, there are. There are a ton of movie reactions to the Goonies. The other issue is mine was unlisted. Okay, mine was unlisted and not released because I still wanted to edit some things out in YouTube Editor, right? So there's just all this mayhem going on. There's just all this chaos that doesn't even need to happen. But this is absurd. This is absurd because I get it. Cool. I know that sometimes you can get a copyright strike when you're doing reactions to content that's not yours. So the process is to go ahead and file an appeal notification and get in contact with the claimant at some capacity and work it out, right? That's what you do. It's just what you have to do. However, they're not allowing that to happen. They're the middleman. They're not, so YouTube is not allowed to not forward your legitimate counter notification. And that's what's happening here. And I wanted to bring some clear receipts and some clear proof with their verbiage on X, with their verbiage in their response on email, which we all went over, because this is currently illegal. They cannot do that. They have to forward this. I guess they don't have to do anything, but they're supposed to forward it under DMCA law. So now, instead of me focusing on doing reactions, I've been dealing with this all morning for like 2 hours, and now, you know, working on so I've escalated it to their copyright team, and it's under investigation. So we'll see where that goes. Hopefully they make the right choice and just forward the damn. They have no liability here. YouTube gets in no trouble, nothing. They have no liability unless they don't forward it. So I just don't get it. It makes no sense, but we'll see. You know, I'm going to get some legal counsel as well. I have a couple people on the ringer because this stuff has happened before. So, you know, I went ahead and reached out because I want to get ahead of this if this happens again. So, yeah, that's just kind of where we're at, you know, just kind of speaking the case. Again, you know, I say this on all of my reactions. I say, go check out the original content. I say, purchase, rent, stream the original content. What I'm doing isn't a substitute. And I always say that now I always say this too, I'm not redistributing the content. Right? We're breaking it up. No one wants to come watch a movie or listen to a song that's broken up. When it comes to the movies, it's not in its entirety. There's clips, there's scenes taken out, you know? So it doesn't even make sense. Like it is what it is, right? Again, without, you know, people are going to get on here and be like, yo, fair use doesn't cover this, that, or the other because you're doing it this way. But they don't have any, there's no laws written that backs that up. That's what I've looked up. There's like lawyers will allude, well, hey, because it's written like this, you're not supposed to do this. But again, there hasn't been a precedent set. And this is why it's so much gray area and it's the wild, wild west on YouTube when it comes to reactionary content. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Just wanted to show what is going on behind the scenes. Again, this is for a video that has not been released to the public. It's just sitting on the back of so it hasn't been released to the public. There's been no money made off this video, no plan on making money off the video. And the video it's been edited down. There's some scenes edited out. There's some stuff edited, but it wasn't fully edited yet either because it was going to be edited in YouTube Editor, right? There's a bunch of songs in the movie that need to be edited out so it doesn't get copyright claims from UMG. There's a bunch of this. There's a bunch of that. So it's just like it's sitting there waiting for me to get to some more edits, has not been released to the public, and this is what I'm dealing with. So I think that's interesting. Just wanted to give you guys some behind the scenes on what we deal with, you know, when this type of nonsense happens, and also just have some data for like if they take their post down or they try to retract something. It's all here, you know, and I even have all the conversation that I had with their customer service support today as well. So it's a process. Hopefully we got it figured out by mañana and they forward the notification and everything's good. But if not, we'll just see where this goes. So until the next time, I'll catch you guys later. Peace. It's always something, ain't it?